Alrighty, guys. So we're gonna have a briefer than I would like lesson on indoor air pollutants. Got a little too many sets of notes to make them all as detailed as I would like. Just a brief note about pollutants that are particulate in nature. So there are particles or, larger in size than just, say, molecules. One of the big ones that's found inside is asbestos. Asbestos is this naturally occurring mineral fiber, and these are all different types of asbestos that's been used for lots and lots of years because it's heat resistant and it's pretty sturdy. So, what people use it for are a lot of construction materials, insulation, roofing shingles, tile, some paper products, brakes for cars and transmission parts, heat resistant fabric and coating. So, back in the old days, they used to put asbestos on a lot of things in order to help make it more fire resistant. Unfortunately, what people realized is these little fibers can flake off very easily when, you've got abrasion or anything like that of the asbestos, and then those can get in the lungs and cause a lot of things. Lung cancer, mesothelioma, and asbestosis. In fact, you've probably seen, if you watch TV during the daytime, there's a lot of commercials from lawyers asking, have you or one of your loved ones contracted or developed mesothelioma, blah, blah, blah. And they're offering to do like a lawsuit on your behalf. There's also dust. If you've ever had to dust a room or dust anything, there's dust that falls from the air. There's also smoke. So, some sources of particulate matter inside the house. When you cook, since you're combusting or burning something, that burning by which I mean fuel, not your food, that can release particulate matter. Anything you burn, like candles or incense, when you clean, like dusting or vacuuming, that can throw some particles up into the air. Laser printers and 3D printers can also produce dust. Gases and electric stoves and ranges, again, any sort of combustion device can produce particulates and also mold. Mold is a fungus. It reproduces by forming spores, and these spores are usually released into the air to spread to a new place so the fungus can grow elsewhere. And those spores count as particulate matter. So there are multiple ways you can get these indoor pollutants. There's some natural sources. So we have something called radon. Radon is something that naturally occurs in the environment. It is an element, however, it is radioactive. And so some rocks and soils have tiny amounts of uranium in them. That uranium, not enough for you to mine, so don't go outside and try and mine some uranium to sell. It's very dilute, but it is just enough that when it decomposes and produces something called radon, that is rising from the soil. So any, soil, whatever, is releasing radon. It's not as big a problem here in Texas, but there are some parts of the country where there's more uranium rich soil that's going to produce more radon. Now, the radon that's being released into the air, it's in such small concentrations that it's not really going to harm you. What becomes a problem is when you build a structure. Our homes are mostly enclosed, they're capped, and so any radon that kind of leaks into your home is trapped there. It's not going to be able to just kind of spread out into the environment and, you know, become dilute enough that it's not going to cause harm. Instead, it's going to be stuck in your house. And that's a problem because anything radioactive can ultimately cause cancer. So there are multiple places where you can have it come in. Any place you have cracks, any sort of gaps, windows even can let in the radon. And another thing is, if your source of water is a well, radon can also get into the water, and then it comes out in your shower, etc. So you can have radon detectors that detect higher amounts of radon in your homes. You can also Um, believe there's some venting technology, but I'm not as familiar with it because, like I said, here in Texas, it's not something we have to deal with. And then again, I told you guys about mold spores. So these are spores, not meant to be a dollar sign. And then dust as well. Those are all naturally occurring, even without humans, those would occur. Things that are anthropogenic, and I like to emphasize this word, it means human caused. So, chemicals and pollutants that wouldn't exist if humans hadn't made them. There's things like insulation. There's VOCs again, so those volatile organic compounds, a chemical called formaldehyde, as well as lead. So, where do these things come from? VOCs unfortunately come from a number of different sources. The indoor concentrations of these chemicals can be anywhere as high as 10 times higher than outdoor concentrations. If you want to see more detailed lists of VOCs that are like sources of VOCs in the house, this diagram is all sources of VOCs and indoor pollution. Feel free to pause and read it. Formaldehyde comes from building materials, furniture, upholstery, carpeting. By the way, formaldehyde is a carcinogen, meaning it can cause cancer. Formaldehyde is also the chemical that we used to use back in the day to preserve dead bodies and animals, like, for dissection. So, formaldehyde, it's not really something you want on a living body. And then, unfortunately, in older homes, you can have a source of lead, and that is paint on the walls. So, we used to paint in the inside of houses with paint that had lead on it, despite the fact that at that point we knew better. We did it anyway. And so, if you've got paint peeling or paint coming off, that can be a source of lead inside the house. And lead is bad, lead causes all sorts of neurological defects. Then there are combustion products. Your traditional combustion reaction is this one. You have some sort of hydrocarbon, you burn it in the presence of oxygen, and it's going to make CO2 and water. That's an ideal condition, though. When you are burning fuels of some sort and you don't have enough oxygen, instead of making carbon dioxide, you can make instead carbon monoxide, which is a much worse chemical. Got a whole nother slide on it. You can make NOx's, so those nitrogen oxides. That is from combustion as well as appliances that aren't well maintained. Sulfur dioxide is usually coming in from the outside because it's in the air from the combustion of fossil fuels. Particulates can come from cooking or combustion. So if you're burning something, and tobacco smoke is also a combustion created source of indoor air pollution. And I kind of like this diagram on the bottom because it's showing you all these different sources of particulate matter. And sure enough, there we go. Cooking, producing particulates. So, what are the effects of these indoor air pollutants? Well, here's the slide on carbon monoxide I was talking about. Carbon monoxide is a really big problem because when it's released, it is colorless and it is odorless. You cannot see it, you cannot smell it. And so, when it's present in your environment, with our senses, we have no way of knowing. Instead, you have to get a carbon monoxide detector like this one here and set it up in your house. It's recommended everyone have one of these in the bedroom as well as near your kitchen, which are the common sources of carbon monoxide is in the kitchen. And then the reason to have it in your bedroom is because if carbon monoxide gets released into your house at night and you're asleep, uh, you would have no way of knowing that you have symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, and you could die if you're not able to get around away from that. What is the problem with carbon monoxide? Carbon monoxide is highly reactive and it binds permanently to hemoglobin. What is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin usually carries oxygen around in your blood. If you don't have any hemoglobin available to carry oxygen because it's all bound to carbon monoxide. You will not be able to carry oxygen around your blood. Your cells will starve for it. They won't be able to perform cell respiration, if you remember your biology. That is why it is called an asphyxiant. It causes you to asphyxiate or pretty much choke. And you're choking, you're still breathing in air, but you're getting the effects of choking in that you're not getting any oxygen to important tissues in your body. So keep that in mind and make sure that you've got a carbon monoxide detector in the house. Okay, what does radon gas do? Well, radon gas, like it said, it can get into the groundwater of a house. It can come in through cracks or come in through the foundation. And what are the effects of it? Well, it can cause lung cancer because you can breathe it in. It's radioactive. It can mutate DNA and then cause cancer. In fact, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States today. Then there's something called sick building syndrome. This is something that is not 100% proven. It's more in the hypothetical stages. So, if a lot of people who are in the same building experience sudden and severe kind of health and comfort issues that doesn't seem to have any other cause, but is more linked, it seems, to having spent time in that building, then it could be a case of sick building syndrome. Um, they're not 100% sure what all the causes are of it, but some of the possible causes are inadequate ventilation, meaning that pollutants, once they're inside the building, can't get out, chemical contaminants, so any sort of chemical pollutants that are either inside being produced by something inside the building or being produced by outdoor sources and making their way in, and then biological contaminants like mold or spores. So sick building syndrome may not show up on the AP test, but I have seen a question or two with it, so I wanted to throw that out there. And then that is the end for this lesson. Not bad.